Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this week's Talking Stick Show. So I'd firstly like to welcome my co-host back to the show. We have Laura Massey. Hello, sister.
Hi, bro. Nice to
Hello.
be here. Thanks
And
for
nice
asking.
to see you.
Again.
How are you doing? How's things
Really
with you?
well. Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
really excited about this show.
Good, good. And I'd like to welcome back the Grand Master of the Obvious, the Galactic Historian, Andrew Bartzis. Hello, brother.
Hello, how you both doing today?
Doing really
good.
well. Really well. And great to have you back on.
Oh, I look forward to our conversations, always deep and in depth, and we go into strange and unusual places and reveal new things.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so how are you, Andrew? What's new in your world, brother?
Not too much. Everything's been quiet here. As usual, the United States government is acting like a clown world, and the sad clowns are on parade now. Okay, so it's a giant stage play, and people are watching the stage play. And hopefully,
Yes.
I'm saying don't buy a ticket and don't watch the show.
So you're coming into the election period soon, aren't you?
November 3rd is the election.
Yes.
They've already started a massive ban wave on YouTube and on Facebook, even though there are congressional hearings against the big tech companies right now. Twitter just got grilled, Facebook got grilled, Instagram, and as well as what is the other one? Snapchat. All of them got hard grilled, really hard. But they're still censoring. They're still doing whatever the government says. And as long as the current regime is in power, nothing's going to change.
Okay. So it's basically like a repeat of what's happened before, and everything what will happen before will happen again.
Except now they have a lot more experience of banning people instead of doing indiscriminate bannings like they did before.
Okay. And could I ask you a question as well? I wanted to ask you for a while. So with Elon Musk on Twitter and running that, will there be any changes with any of the kind of censorship on that front with him? Or is it just going to be, is he just kind of a figurehead? Really?
He's already declared, I won't buy it.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
I don't know if any of you saw the Twitter whistleblower and testify before Congress. If you have 2 hours to spare, it's absolutely worthwhile to watch it as you begin to understand the truth of what actually Twitter is. It's a hollow paper tiger being run by complete and total economic morons who just run from disaster to disaster, who just want to make money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you really realize what it's like there and what the whistleblower is saying, it's some damning stuff. And there's no way Elon Musk would ever buy it with even 1/10 of what this guy has said at that price. He may buy it at $12 a share, not $45 a share.
Yes.
So nothing. There's no way his money's ever going to go, nor will his investment people ever let that happen.
So Twitter's kind of, for me, I've never got involved in Twitter or really looked at it, because all I feel that it is just trolls left, right, and center.
And it
going
is.
at it. Yeah.
It is. Is it a place to find news? Sure, but whose news? Not the news you and I are really looking for, because a vast majority of common presenters, like the uncommon presenters like we are, we're not going to post on Twitter.
Yeah.
It'll just get lost in the 200 million trolls. We'll go off of our website. We'll go off of our blog. Maybe we'll use Facebook, because at least we know there's enough sanity in half the users versus the majority of the users on Twitter are just there to troll.
And what was funny as well, Andrew, I'm meaning to tell you. So when you talked about a few months ago, and you've talked about it through the years, about Facebook and kind of use of Facebook and how addictive it is. And I had to go for a period where I have to delete it off my phone completely, especially the Messenger as well, because I was so addicted to it and my subconscious was taking it. And yeah, I really resonated with that. And for me, in the last 3 months, that's been my kind of like detoxing from that, so to say.
Mm-hmm. So ironically, because I have a public Facebook page, Facebook forced me to have it on my device, not Messenger, but on a device. Wow. I couldn't just give control to my administrators and not have to log into Facebook. Literally forced it to have me to have on a device. and I don't want to have an unvalue. So what have I done? I've locked out everything that's Facebook, and I just click the button once a week and then hang up on it. Otherwise, Facebook is going to deactivate my account. That's what they said.
Wow, wow. And that's it. Have you got anything to add to that, Laura? With the
No, I was just thinking, in terms of our businesses, Dale. I remember Andrew and David saying you'd be better just having one social media account. And I wonder whether Facebook was better or Instagram.
Instagram is not a money-making process. It'll never be a money-making process. And unfortunately, that's the big magic game that they've got going on, like 3-card money, because your Instagram is linked to your Facebook account. Now, is Facebook good for business? Yes, but it has lost a lot of its capacity because of mismanagement and rapid and massive banning of personalities who should have never been banned. And the majority of the young kids don't use Facebook. Why? Because they got their mother and their father and their cousins, their aunts and their uncles, and they can't talk about whatever they want to talk about. Like on Instagram, they can. So you have cultural groups mixing together that can't have their truths. So Facebook has lost its capacity for small businesses to be successful on it. Will it make it back? I doubt it. They put so much money and still I started regularly live streaming onto YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter simultaneously. And I built an audience in each side. And what I discovered now is like I don't even broadcast onto Facebook anymore. It wasn't worth the long-term views, but what it did do was just remind people that there was a show.
Yes.
And unfortunately, do posts make a difference? No, they don't. Unless it gets 100 shares, 100 comments, and 100 likes on a regular basis, it isn't having any form of market penetration. But we as business people still have to do the due diligence of it.
Yes.
And that's the other sucky side of Facebook. It forces you to be on their platform all the time.
Yeah, it does. I remember David Ellis saying on your business page on Facebook to post it twice. Dale, this might be helpful for you because the first time you post it, they're checking up the algorithm of it, and the second time they don't. So if you put the same post up twice on your business page, it somehow gets through better.
Right. Also, when you post in the morning, it's somebody's middle of the night somewhere else, and then it reaches both time zones. Like what I discovered is I had a very big audience in India, in China, in other places like that, and they would see all the posts. They're a day ahead of us. Or sometimes a day in Australia is a day and a half ahead of us. So making the second post made a difference. Or the Facebook replay that they watched, now it's to redirect to YouTube. Why? Because I have one point of interest instead of having multiple points of analytics where I have to compare and contrast. And unfortunately, Facebook's analytics is absolutely garbage. It's absolutely garbage.
I don't read them. I take no notice. I mean, I had more luck with my reels. I've done 3 or 4 reels now, and had many more views with that than posting direct onto the page. So, you know, that is another way.
And what about,
And the trends, go ahead. The trends move so fast, unless you're sticking up with the internet marketers that are out there and taking regularly spending, you know, a few $100s on a class every 3-4 months, you're never going to be up on the trends. Like, I have Robert, my producer in the background, and he was able to figure out how to clone my audience. Yeah, you can actually clone your audience, but you got to know how to do it. And was it technically difficult? No, it took him about 6 hours of reading to figure it out, and he got it to work, but it's still 6 hours of paying somebody to figure out how to do it. But Robert regularly goes and does internet marketing just for his own self. And there's a lot of things that he's learned about the trends. What worked 6 months ago doesn't work today, but it might work 6 months from now. Because people graduate marketing school and are still 10 years behind the common tactics.
Yes. And you mentioned that, I remember a few years ago, I remember the show you mentioned, it was saying that all these people with degrees, marketing degrees, and whatever they trained in, it's all changed. It's the same with my brother who did computer programming, and back then, now he's come out of it and he's so alien to everything because it's all completely changed since.
Completely changed. You know, and another thing to understand about marketing in general, so many people say email is dead. No, it's not. Okay, it's dead for children who don't check their email, but the vast majority of people have their email linked to their phone. Yes. So creating an email list will be far more beneficial, and looking at how do you use an email list to your advantage? How do you keep it warm versus cold? How do you tell them what your updates are so that you may say, hey, there's a show coming 6 times a month. That gets too much after a while. You got to change it, change the words. You can't just keep repeating the same paragraphs over and over again. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But it's also, I've built a static audience that I know is always going to be there. And the new audience can see those static repeats. And that static energy is good enough for me right now.
And so
you've got sound core base.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew's got a very sound core base of audience, haven't you now?
Yeah. Well, I've always had. There's always been, 1,500, 2,500, 3,500 people that are always listening in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I first found you, Andrew, was through typing in galactic history school or something. I think you were the third one down. I was like, who's this guy? Then I listened to your way to work to my restaurant where I was working, and I listened to the information like, fuck. I was like, I'm gonna have to listen to this walking home as well. Then I kept just putting it on. Then I was like, oh fuck.
A lot of people that the same journey. They found a video was recommended. 25% of my audience comes from YouTube recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Great YouTube. It's still shadow banning and blocking me because I swear like a sailor all the time, and I know that, and it blocks monetization of some of the words again because I swear all the time. But I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I bring up any subject matter that's going to ban me? No. I've had one strike my entire time, and that was from a mistake video that went up, and it never went public. It was private. Okay. And that's because it had a 6-second clip from another video that was copyrighted, but they didn't give me a copyright strike.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean they could take my channel away in a heartbeat. So like all they do to all the other channels.
Did it happen with Monty? Did it with did his channel? Yeah.
Videos that were a year old got him banned. A year and 2 years old. Yep.
So what are they doing? Have they got an AI kind of going into the past?
Who knows?
Wow. And so what about Google Ads? Because I was going to ask you this, for using Google Ads, do you use Google Ads? And is it working?
I have used Google AdSense in the past, and I have used my own Google Ads. Do they pay off? Yes.
Yes. You
need a lot of money to keep it going, though. And that's the game. That's the game. You ever logged in to YouTube and there's a video and the advertisement, you look down and it's an hour and 45-minute advertisement?
Yes.
That's a whole show. Guess what? That works. That actually works. It actually works because it starts like, let's say you get up to go and get a drink and the ad plays and you sit down and you got past that 5-second or 15-second mark. Oh, because they're marketing direct to you, because that's the way YouTube AdSense, Google AdSense works. They already know everything about you and got you categorized by demographic, by age, by location, by what the shit you've bought before. And when you get into the AdSense panel, you target exactly what you're looking for. And the money you're spending is only spent on that.
Wow. And so what's it, so looking at it like a machine or through the years, say the system or the creation of it and what was created through it, was there a plan with it why it's like this and so fucking hard?
100% plan, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's to keep the person addicted and the businesses addicted to its services.
Okay.
Based off of psychological preparation by giving you dopamine releases for every view, every comment, every like, every up like and down like, so on and so forth. It's designed as dopamine release, whether you're a business or a person.
And that's the addiction, isn't it? That's the addiction. Something else that might be useful, Dale, that I think we were chatting about yesterday, Andrew, was not investing too much time and energy in doing too much before the election, because Facebook will be taken up very much with that. And I guess at the moment, related to what's happening here today, also the changing of the throne.
So for me, I'm just concentrating on the self-help, spirituality, and galactic history stuff, the stuff that has always had the long-term penetration for my stuff. Am I really doing anything different than I have done the last 6 months? No. I have a product ready though to put out that'll come out in beginning or middle of October. And that's all the basics you've ever heard from me in one place, 4.5 hours of every aspect of every basic you ever heard me talk about in one product. Okay, everyone's asked for that for years and years. So it'll be a touchstone product that will last for years to come. And if anybody asks any basic questions, you could be referred to that product. I'll come out with a one after that. I've also chose over the last year not to put products out. Why? Because I wanted to grow a different kind of audience. Okay. And it's made a huge difference. Again, I put 80% of my material out for free. Why? Because people use it, it works for them, then they don't have any problem saying, I'll buy one of his products, not just to support him, but I want the new information.
And that's it. And for me, how I feel from listening to you since 2012, I feel maybe before, you put out a lot of shit for free.
Yeah,
and
for free.
And I think I've listened to probably, I'd say 95% of your material on YouTube, and I'm sure Laura has as well. Both gone through them with fine tooth combs, and there's a lot.
To Sunday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day with 1.5 hour lunch break.
Wow.
And there were 2,800 people in the audience.
Yeah.
And what I learned as I got there, I was light years ahead of everyone else. I had a show that had a regular audience. I had a marketing term. I'd already figured out my hook, my lag, my tags. I already had a mission statement. I had all that stuff done and was in the process of organically growing an audience. And I learned, holy shit, I'm ahead of all these other people. Now what can I do to refine it? And that's where I simply learned what the power of a teleprompter is, so that when I'm talking about products or creating speeches, it makes it faster memorization of the material. And it allows me to make sure I hit the business with a solid voice, not a meek voice.
Yes. Beautiful. And so a great information there, Andrew. Thank you. And So we'll the elephant in the room for me and Laura, the Queen. Let's discuss the elephant in the room. Is that so not going in? Do you want to start first, Laura? Go ahead, because I'm sure you had a few questions regarding our Queen. Sorry, the Queen Elizabeth II.
Someone from Earth Nouveau contacted me earlier this evening, seeing our post up that you were on, and asked if she could ask a question about the contracts that are handed over from the Queen between when Charles takes the throne, which is going to be about the 2nd of June, I think, the coronation. Asked whether it's worth them doing a lot of the revocations, like the revoking of the family crests and things like that. Will that make any difference if they do it in this interim? Now the Queen has passed and Charles is not yet crowned.
If you're going to do a revocation based off of a monarch energy, you're doing it for yourself, not for an outside expectation of a result. That's the first thing to say. The second thing, did anybody watch the funeral today? Did you see the ceremonial breaking of the rod and the scepter? That was a magic spell.
Yeah.
That ended the line of that completely and totally. All contracts with her ended, but they were given to someone else months ago. There's a specific person that broke the rod, and that is the person that controls the power of the entire royal family and has done that for centuries in a row.
Right.
They then make a new rod, which will be given to the new king, who will sit upon the throne with the stone underneath it and all the new stuff that'll be made for his royal regalia. Now, do they have enough wizards to make new regalia? No, they don't. So they reuse the old items that have spiritual contents attached to them, but it is a faux version, not a recrafting of the magic like it's supposed to be when one monarch dies and the next takes over.
So this has got to also relate to the Stone of Destiny, and the biggest question is that the original stone?
No. If you believe what's actually in history, inside Calgary, Manitoba, in one of their major political buildings is the Stone of Destiny. And it's been there for like 150 years.
What did you call it? Stone of what?
The Stone of Destiny.
Yeah. Well,
it's supposedly in that building, and people have sent me pictures of it. Is it really that? Who knows? Who knows?
But if
and why does the stone grant power? And it's not a crystal, it's just a fucking rock.
Yeah.
It's nothing special.
Yeah, but it's what's been put into it over the years, if we were to think that was the actual Stone of Destiny, because there's various stories, aren't there? Like it actually came from Egypt with Scotia, who came from Egypt with Jacob's pillow, and then it went to Iona, and it's supposed to be red sandstone. And then when I think Edward Longshanks sent his courtiers up for it, it said that the monks actually swapped it. So so the English never got the original Stone of Scone, which is where all the things
we don't really know, do we?
No, we don't. No,
that's what history tells us.
Okay, and we know one thing about our history: it isn't the truth.
Yes.
Maybe some of the truth, but it isn't the full truth. Now, getting back to the man that broke the rod. If you go back to the funeral, when they broke the rod, all the focus is on him, and no one watched the queen being lowered into the ground. It's a very significant spell. He broke the rod, held the spiritual contracts that were already given to somebody else, and then the physical contracts will be recrafted under the new monarch on his coronation date. So the contracts of the old Elizabethan era have ended. New contracts for a new monarch will be created. Do they have the wizards to write them right? I doubt it. But it's the digital wizardry that's going to determine. Because will we ever see this pomp and circumstance again? No. secretaries, and I will actually say there is a secret king and queen in charge, and has been a secret king and queen in charge for hundreds of years. We just don't get told about it. Okay. That is a figurehead. That's why so many people who call her a baby raping lizard wizard eating kids, no. And if you go back to all of my material, I say she's a spiritual contract holder. Yes. For the front end of a band.
Yes.
Yeah. That projects what? Authority.
Yes.
What real power does the queen have? Does anyone really know?
I feel if I had to have a guess, Andrew, it would be for her to be kind of, like you say, the ceremonial leader, but part of it, and just that dark ceremonial leader, or like you say, she's been light and dark in past lives. Just that person, that rote position who's been dominated herself. Is she being dominated in her like Diana has in that way?
Do you think she actually had control of her life? No, she didn't.
No,
she was a woman born in the early 1900s, told you're going to be queen, and guess what? When her husband, when she took over, she had no control of her life. Mm-hmm. Did she run the monarchy? No, the government did. Mm-hmm. If you Google what are the queen's real powers, she can dissolve parliament and order new re-elections, as well as a handful of other stuff that actually is still significant, but never exercised.
Yeah.
So what's sorry, Dale, what's the secret king and queen then you're talking about? Is this something that would represent the secret government?
And the elites, correct.
Okay.
Remember, all the monarchies are related to each other. You know, she was a German. They changed their name, okay? Yeah. They're all related to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're all essentially first cousins.
So do the secret king and queen go through the same sort of rituals, or rituals in secret?
Yes, but much higher esoteric energies, and those that are a part of them have been fully indoctrinated into the esoteric practices. It's not something any of the public would ever see.
Yeah, okay. King and queen is just a term you're using. Yeah.
Yes. And is that, so the people who are now king and queen and got those contracts, is that connected to the Vatican then, and those are the ones?
Yes, it's also connected to how the three obelisks work.
Yeah.
Because it's the front man that all the people give faith energy to or take faith energy away. That's ultimately how the system works, through belief. That's why there's a monarch at the top.
That's it.
They're the focus of the belief. And the rest, the secret king and the queen, are actually the economic managers of the faith directed at them, which has always been true to any monarchy. They don't really rule. Everyone around them rules for them.
Yeah, so the secret king and queen are the energy managers. Yeah.
Behind the scenes. They think it's all this, but it's not.
Once again, I encourage you to go and watch the funeral. When he breaks the ceremonial rod, you will see a spell, an actual spell being done right there. And a handful of other times during the whole funeral, you can see the spells. And come at it neutral. Don't come at it from evil baby raping lizard wizards or even paranoia. Just look at it for the pomp and circumstance, and what does the rod being broken mean?
That's ace. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. So if the wizardry's lost some of its spell power,
right?
So does that mean the hypnosis of the crown jewels has also lost some of its power?
Yes, it has. But the crown jewels were created at a time where wizards were extremely powerful. And whatever power they've lost is inconsequential in our particular times. It's just our wizard class is so inexperienced in comparison to the previous generations of wizards. Where there were tens of thousands of wizards, there are 30 or 40 now in the Britain. And maybe around the world, real practicing, 300, maybe 500 at most, compared to 10,000 or 100,000 200 years ago.
And they've all gone to Glastonbury.
No, many of them, I talk about it in some of the shows that I talk about, the end of the wizard era and the technological taking over. They became bankers. They became part of the new digital system, which is digital magic.
Yeah. And so for her burial, where would she be buried then? Do we know where she's going to be buried? And for her as a soul and a spirit, what would be it? Would she go straight into that, still doing the same role, or would she have choice?
So there would be rituals that would be done to make sure her soul fully crosses over without any residual, because if it doesn't, the contracts will still be active. Okay. Yeah. There's still a necromantic factor, but not all necromancy is pure evil.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it
so
will be
that go through a life review process.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, wow, what a life review.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Would I want to be a fly on the wall of that life review? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look.
And can I just ask this question? And I think you talked about it once, and I don't know if I was making it up when I heard it, but did you say the Queen was part to do with Diana's obviously assassination and her disappearing from the family?
Was she a part of it?
Yes.
You asking? No, she was not a part of it.
Oh, okay.
But her people around her were a part of it.
Oh, I see. Yes.
She had become too popular, too powerful, and an international figure that the people around the Queen could not have in office anymore.
And she was.
And all it took was a simple leaking of her schedule.
Mm.
Wow. And that's
yes,
it.
it's malicious intent behind it.
Yeah. And that's it. Diana was, like you say, she divinity path being and very special. And she did take complete all the look away from the Queen to her. She was like the head, wasn't she? And that loved, feminine love feeling when you looked at her, that she was actually a heart space being, and people were maybe getting confused by it. So yeah, that makes perfect sense why should have to be taken out.
The glamour of the Queen had been dulled by her presence.
Yes.
Mm. 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 So the Queen fully passing over means she doesn't reincarnate?
No, she could reincarnate it, but it'll be choice.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to wait until the awakening is said and done. Okay?
Like
she doesn't want to come back and go, you were the Queen and I hate you, and all the karma that can come from her coming back too early.
Yes.
Because we got it. All the people around that energy got to get over it too.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I feel. And it's great that when you're talking about it, you're kind of de-weaponizing all of this kind of polarizing feelings and towards the Queen, because there are a lot of people out there, like you see online. I actually sent Laura some examples, and we had a laugh at people, how they were blowing up about her being a lizard. And like she's a horrible person, I'm glad she's dead. And like all of these fucking people left, right, center blowing up on Facebook. And I kept sending Laura them, sharing, look at this.
But if you look at the history of the monarchy as a karmic negativity, they hung a lot of people for stealing a loaf of bread. They killed a lot of people for nothing, forced people to war for a lot of nothing, or worse. And yeah, they were in the ancient days baby raping lizard wizards, but that passed. Okay, all that shit passed well into the 16s and the 1700s, post John Dee. Now, another thing to understand here is the trauma the monarchies have instilled on individuals is why you're seeing this negative backlash. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's a karma.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why can't they forgive her? Because they've got a lot of stored rage, hate, and anger inside them at the symbol of the monarchy, which has crushed them under the thumb of control for centuries.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a mass consciousness effect of this.
Yes. Which is why you see the extreme responses. Like, what is it? 2 weeks ago, we know when they first talked about it, you know, I said some stuff, and I cannot tell you some of the negative responses I got on my YouTube. I'm never listening to you again because the queen is a baby raping lizard wizard, and for you to say anything, you have completely devaluated who you are. I'm like, I never said she was that. I've always said something different. I mean, I must have erased at least 25 comments that were very similar to that. And this is the way I see it. I let people speak and let them have divisive energies. But when you are solely attacking for the sake of attack, you come to my wall, you're erased.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. But we
And
can't
that's it.
say, sorry, Dale, go on, Dale.
No, you go ahead, Laura. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we can't claim to do what we do if we take anything other than a neutral stance.
Yes. And it does. And when you take that neutral stance, it just makes your life more peaceful and not as bitter. And when you choose to forgive, let go, move on, get over it, and it is life so much easier. It's fucking nice. You're not filled with rage, anger all the time, and just pissed off with everything. And you see it. And I've actually not defriended, but unfollowed so many people on my Facebook account because I just can't stand what I see on the post about this and that. And it's the same shit over and over again, where they're not taking any responsibility for themselves, but they're going on about what's around them and not going, hang on a minute, why don't I do the self-mastery journey and talk about that instead?
Yeah. I get a lot of hate for just talking about self-mastery because they'll never be self-masters of themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's your choice. If you don't want to do self-mastery, go listen to someone else. I'm going to keep presenting what I'm presenting because those that are tuned to self-mastery will learn something from it.
Yeah, it's a much more peaceful way of life, as Dale was saying. Nothing sticks.
Yes.
Right. I've always said I'm here to instill self-illumination master teachings. So you can do it on your own. Here's the blueprint. It's what's worked for me. Do it for yourself in your way, and you build it the way you need to build it. But the common words of fixing your broken faith, self-healing, self-nurturing, self-mastery are common things that every generation has to learn and relearn.
Yes.
Yeah. It's reclaiming those rites of passage.
Definitely.
And then following through with them.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was it for me. So when I was doing all the work and not being obsessed and learning the self-mastery skills, working on myself, doing trauma work, there was that time, and I remember you talk about repetition of illumination, and I remember thinking, I wonder what that feels like. And I remember a few years in, I started feeling it, and it started happening. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And yeah, very special moment, that when I felt all the work done was working and I was not being
validated.
obsessed. Yes.
Validated in such a way that it wasn't just a dopamine release, but it was a spiritual bliss moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got a question going back to the Queen and the jewels. Did you see that article about someone wanting the crown back? You know, the jewels in the crown.
Yes.
Was it loaned to her and by someone, and they want it back? It was worth, I can't remember how much, but ridiculous amount of money.
As far as I understand, the crown jewels are still owned by the family, but protected by the state. They are considered state regalia, like something donated to a museum. Like, it got to the point where the queen couldn't wear the crown anymore because it was like 16 pounds. It would have broken her neck if she put it on. Okay? and if you go back in history, there has been a contention of ownership of the jewels going back 200 and 300 years. And it's because she technically shouldn't have been queen during the change of history. There were other people in the monarchy line who were much more suited lineage-wise, but they didn't have the political influence that her family did, and the wealth.
Yes.
Which has always been the case of the monarchs. Even though you're the one next in line by lineage, doesn't mean you're going to get in. We see that happening in kingships and monarchies all the time through history.
And you see I would call it, so brainwashing, whatever you really want to call it, when you look around, like I went out in the car today and there was one shop open the entire day today, literally one newsagent's open around about 3 o'clock. And you can see that extent, can't you, with the programming and how deep it is still, and everyone's still obviously in that programming zone. And it is a huge portion of the world in England. What's it like over in America with the Queen from your perspective, Andrew, with that?
It's on all the television stations, and it's a needed rest from the radical news that we have. And the news agencies realize they've overdone it, and they're playing this up to very high degrees. Very high degrees. And to me, that's not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's a break from the endless drawl of propaganda and radicalization.
And the bad actors.
And the bad actors, yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on from the royal family, Laura, what would you like to go into next? And what would you like to, I know you've got a lot of conversations about Scotland, and it might be better.
Yeah, really. I mean, a very nice segue into this would be what was special about Balmoral, if anything, or am I just looking for something that's not there? Because
you're looking for something that is there, but it's for you to look for your own interpersonal self. And there's certain types of non-curiosity research for you to do. Like, what's the history of the isles that are up there?
Yeah, I've been doing that. So I understand now about the Lewisian stone, which is one of the oldest stones actually in the world, isn't it? And that's certainly up in northern and northwest Scotland are the old volcanic rings as well. So, and the fact that quartz and feldspar, is it, are some of the most prominent crystals in that stone, and also the as we spoke about before, the electromagnetic frequency that is emanated out from the land into the sea. But I noticed also linking the Queen to this, or linking the crown. The crown is different from the Queen or the private royal family, what they own, but they own a great deal of the waters.
Which they always have, because that has been a tremendous agricultural resource.
Yes. Okay. So are like we talk about Atlantic salmon, and we talk about a lot of Scottish food being among some of the best in the world because of the waters and so on.
Was the best of the world.
Okay. What's changed then? Because I was going to
overfished it. They overfished it.
Yeah.
To the point of cataclysmic destruction of the life forms that are there. And will they regenerate? There's one thing that COVID revealed: when all those big ships, the cruise liners, started not sailing around, life came back very fast.
Yeah.
And right now, the need for seafood globally and the prices that they're charging for it are ridiculous. And you have so many corporations strip mining the fish and leaving nothing for the next generation. In the past, they could barely scratch at the surface of what would be regenerated every year. Even if there were 200,000 or 300,000 ships skimming the waters for fish, it still didn't break. It was when the industrialization of nets, where these nets would be 2 and 3 and 4 miles long, did they start strip mining the fishing, which was about the 1920s. And 80 years later, there's virtually no fish in those areas anymore.
So is that why they've gone into farming salmon?
Yes, that's exactly why they went into farming salmon.
Right, but my point was, with the electromagnetic frequency of the waters, would that make a higher quality product from the sea for us to eat?
Yes.
Okay, right. So and also why the MOD own most of the land in Scotland. I think the Crown's about 4th on the list actually, and so does their waters, because of that frequency again, makes it their sonar operate more clearly, better? Is that the reason why they?
Let's take sonar out. And
okay.
What is the electromagnetic frequency? It signals when the salmon have to come inland to spawn, to a place of power that's in a river 50, 60, 70 kilometers inland or more. And they spawn there, and then they go back out to sea. And the ones that spawn there, the ones that come there, they lay their eggs and die. So there's a cycle where the new fish, there's more coming out than going in.
I don't know if Atlantic salmon die, Pacific salmon die. I don't know if
there's different kinds. Some do and some don't. Most salmon pass on right away.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's trout, rainbow trout, which are both freshwater and brackish water and saltwater fish. And then there's the cod too. The cod just don't go as deep into the fresh water as the salmon do. They go into the spawning grounds, which are just above the Atlantic shelf in 6 and 7 feet of water in coves, and they mass breed there. In the old days, when they came here to the United States off of Nova Scotia, the fish were so plentiful you could walk on top of the water. That was the metaphor. The same thing applied to the Scottish fisheries areas there too. You put a net in, it came back full every time.
So it's really a case of overfishing.
Yep. Extreme overfishing.
Yeah. But it's still, the frequencies are still attracting the whales and the dolphins.
Sure.
Yeah.
And those frequencies, when they allow lesser fishing, will regenerate the population even faster. It's like a healing energy.
Yes, that's what I was getting to, aligned with the fact that there is a womb chakra.
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
Okay.
And I remember there is a lot of that where they try and put fear about the ocean or the rivers not being able to heal themselves, and they have done a great deal, haven't they? I remember seeing a lot of stuff saying about that, and the capacity for the ocean to heal itself very well. Andrew, is that right?
And we're seeing that during the COVID eras.
Yeah.
You had all the places where the big cruise liners would come in and out, or a year and a half of them not coming in and out. The freshwater, the fish regenerated themselves there.
So there's a question I've always wanted to ask as well, is so the Battle of Culloden and what that was all about, because that is one of the main, and what stands out for me of learning Scottish history. What was that all about? I know what history's told us what it was about, but was there any meaning it to be close to the Inverness area, that line, or was it just to kind of suppress the land?
So
like
was that the Jacobite? Was that the Jacobite Revolution?
Yes, it was. And when they went out,
that was an attempt to assassinate all of the Scottish potential monarchs that could challenge the throne. That was an attempt to wipe out the entire lineage of all elderly, all people who could have any claim to a throne or royalty.
Wow.
So, Inverness or not, it was literally, if we can kill them all, which is what happened, the Jacobite Revolution, they all died. Only a small handful survived and left, because they had no choice, because the assassins were at their bottoms of their coattails.
And so for that Inverness line, Andrew, and I know you talk about the womb chakra there, could you tell us a little bit more about it? So I remember one of the private readings, we talked about it at the top of Inverness going down to Ireland. Could you talk a little bit about that womb chakra there?
So when the water was much lower, that was the top of a mountain. And it was the place of pilgrimage and power that people would go to. Now that the water's much higher, it's much easier to get to and create pilgrimage and powers. And those people that were of that land and grew on that had this energy within inside them. It's also why the Jacobites created the revolution, and it's why they were killed. And many things have been done to stymie that energy of that area, such as the wars, the blood, the hate, etc. But it's still an ever-producing process. It's still a beautiful country, no matter what terrors human beings have done to it. And it will always be an awe-inspiring place, which is what that womb chakra wants to create and generate, a life-giving force that has the capacity to survive and thrive.
Yeah, because if you talk to people who've been to Scotland on holiday, one of the words they use is magical.
Yep, because it is magical.
Yeah, many people I've spoken to have said that. And also the people even now, it goes back to the old storytellers, you know, they pass things on from generation to generation, which is something that England itself seems to have lost. So
on purpose.
Yeah. Whereas that they still have that in Scotland.
Yep.
You know, they have that.
And it's part of that energy of the womb chakra, keeping that energy there, instilled to the local population that have stayed there for generations, or the new populations that are adopting that as their homeland.
And so,
Yeah,
so that womb chakra
on,
moves, doesn't it, Andrew? Either side, it continues to move back and forth.
Up and down, back and forth, based off of the phase of the moon, solar flares, spiritual energies, etc. It moves between anywhere between 100 and 200 kilometers in any direction, based off of the pull of the energies.
Wow. And so Ben Nevis itself, would that be kind of the indicator of where the chakra womb goes through? Because that's central on that line, the Nevis.
Yes.
Is that,
and that's why the city is there. And that's why it's built there, to harvest the energies. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. And anything you want to add to that, Laura, or any more questions going into it?
Yeah, so I don't want to get too extreme about this, or in any way extreme, but MOD seem to own land like Stonehenge that has higher frequency potential. So would that be why the MOD own most of the land in Scotland?
I
don't want to read too much into it.
No. There's something there. I just got to unpack it the right way. So the MOD has all these other organizations that are subservient to it, from the archaeological researchers, everything, and putting one group in control of all of that is a way to make sure history that's not supposed to come out doesn't come out.
Yeah.
So that would be the main reason. Secondary, by putting the MOD in charge of it, they put the land into a trust that's backed by the government, so that nobody could just come in and take the stones down and turn it into an amusement park. It's to protect it, but in reality, having that one group in charge determines who gets to do the research and who doesn't, who gets the money to research and who doesn't, who gets the public-facing tours and buses and who doesn't. That's really what it's for.
Wow. And there is at my visit to Scotland, because I went to Lochiel when I was younger, and a few years back I went to Loch Lomond, and for me there's some, like you say, something very special about that place. Really special when you're in the middle of the Highlands and you're just looking around at, holy fuck, is this a dream? Am I dreaming a dream right now? And it's just stretched out, all the mountains and various peaks and rivers, etc., and lochs. So would you say, going to the actual loch, what's the main one, with the monster on, what you visited, Laura?
Loch Ness.
Loch Ness, yeah. So specifically Loch Ness, Andrew, is there any specific thing about that? Because I know you talked about the energy harvesting from crafts, which were always around there. Is there any particular information about the Loch Ness itself?
So all of those lochs have deep underwater caverns that connect them all to the ocean. Okay. Some have caved in over the recent years, and some have been widened over the recent years. I think there hasn't been an actual Nessie site, real true Nessie sighting.
Any particular information about the Loch Ness itself?
So all of those locks have deep underwater caverns that connect them all to the ocean.
Okay.
Some have caved in over the recent years, and some have been widened over the recent years. I think there hasn't been an actual Nessie site, real true Nessie sighting in what, 2 years or going on 3 years now? Meaning the population has dwindled or they've moved on to somewhere else. Which is part of natural history. The fact that one has never been physically caught over a long period of time, that means the beast itself, which is not really a beast, has the capacity to pass between the corporeal and the incorporeal world at will, which many sea life do, but we just don't recognize that sea life can phase in and out of reality.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Loch Ness monster then, Andrew, and what type of being, and I'm sure it's a very heart space being, is the Loch Ness monster, and a bit of history about the Loch Ness.
So the Loch Ness monster, I think it goes back to stories all the way back to the 1300s that there's something in the waters there. And it was never aggressive. It never really attacked people unless you instigated it. It was a mammal, meaning it gave birth, live birth. It didn't lay eggs. It would come out of the water to give birth, just like a lot of humans go do water-based births. So, so you would regularly see it on land, and it was big, between 6 and 15 meters, depending on its age and size. And is it a plesiosaur? Yes, but there are other versions of plesiosaur in the archaeological records that are even bigger, different sizes. And I actually believe that at one point there were about 9 different species of plesiosaurs that were all throughout the mid-Atlantic, North Atlantic waters that were using the underground caverns and tunnels to come in and do their breeding in the freshwater resources, just like the salmon and the cod and all the other fish, all the sea life would do. Yeah. They discovered that they could live long periods of time in the freshwater. Like, here's an example. If you go down to Florida and you look at the Mississippi River, did you know that bull sharks will go all the way almost to the Great Lakes? That a bull shark gives birth to its babies in fresh water. And you regularly can find 3, 4, 5, 6, 12-foot bull sharks in freshwater rivers and lakes.
Wow.
Okay? And it's because in their first several years of a bull shark's life, it's designed to live in freshwater. And it's one of the few animals that can adjust its own salinity levels. And the same thing applies to the different things that we'll call Loch Ness monsters. You know, they're not just one species, but they also have a special energy, like phasing in and out of reality, as well as a psychic awareness for predators. What predates a plesiosaur? What will be a predator for a plesiosaur? Okay.
Killer whale. Killer whale.
Killer whale.
Yes. Oh, look at that tasty feed.
Freshwater squid or freshwater octopus. In the ancient days, there were lots of freshwater squids and octopus, and they were very dangerous. You imagine going to take your bath in your local river and there's a 12-foot octopus in there? Really smart, or a squid? Super aggressive squid?
Yeah. and so,
in Loch Ness again.
Right.
What's it like now, like this period, Andrew, for the Loch Ness monster? Is it regular
reduction? There's been a great reduction of their population.
Okay.
As well as they've had to recognize they needed to change their territorial waters because they got to go where the food is. And right now, if you look at the amount of fish produced in the Loch Ness, every year it's getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, again from overfishing. Okay. and poisonings of the water, so on and so forth, the toxicities. So they've had to adjust and go other places.
Wow.
That's
So
why
you won't see them, Laura, when you're next there.
that must be why. So hold on. So if this family or this group of beings would move in and out the caverns, why aren't they seen in any of the other lochs, or are they, but it's not reported?
They are, but they're not reported.
Right, because it's now so in our minds, our psyche, that it comes with Loch Ness.
Yes.
We wouldn't see it anywhere else. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Here in the United States, we have another plesiosaur type being at one of the in all of the Great Lakes, and then some of the inland lakes in New York City, out in New York State. There are regular sightings of the different Lake Champlain. You can check out like the Lake Champlain monster, and it's seen 10, 20, 30 times a year. It's been tracked on sonar, a whole bunch of other things. So they're still around.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why do they want to keep this secret from us then? Because it seems quite scientifically acceptable that a plesiosaur could survive this long.
If you open the door to one, people will begin to wonder about Bigfoot, the pyramids, and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to keep the door closed.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't give them hope that's real. You'd rather them be sucking on the hopium pipe. One day they'll catch one, versus there is one.
Mm.
And they probably have caught a few, but it's not been televised or documented yet.
Oh, hence another reason for the MOD's big presence up there as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Control the narrative.
Yeah. I would have looked harder. I should have looked harder for the plesiosaur, shouldn't I?
Go down to Loch Lomond and check it out. That's a big loch.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
And so moving, one of my personal favorite conversations you had, which I listened to quite a few years ago, and it really dug deep with me, was the conversation you had about the Picts and them around that Scotland area. Would you be able to go, because I like asking you sometimes the same question, because you have a totally different perspective and spin on it the next time. So with the Picts, Andrew, so they're above the spine of Scotland now, and they're just basically, from being captured, waiting for us to go through our own self-awakening.
That's a little bit of a stretch.
Okay.
So the Picts, as a DNA lineage, have been heavily influenced by the elements of the land. They've also led a warrior, hunter-gatherer, agrarian lifestyle based in their own natural magic, which was radically different than the druidic magics and the Celtic magics of that era. And when the Druids and the Celtics began to move in mass, the Picts said, no, you ain't bringing your shit in here. We're going to do it our way, and regularly did war with them. It's why they did the naked tattoo thing. It was the fear of what they could create and the different war costumes that they would create as they're absorbing the energy of whatever beast was in their war costume. Wow. So it was a form of anthropomorphizing the religious aspects into powerful magics. Now, the Picts were also extremely powerful underground miners. And that's an aspect of their lineage that dates back hundreds of thousands of years. All throughout England, you have deep underground tunnels and mines, because the majority of the British people, that when the lineages were first founded a couple million years ago, they were underground miners. That was their job. Just like many of the Africans, the Black Africans, they were deep underground miners too. And then the breeding population will always stay on the surface, and then they go through the graduation and go underground to become miners and get aspects of spiritual technology or physical technology that allowed them to operate in the deep underground mines. Now, the Picts they overthrew their masters a lot earlier in British history than the rest of the Celts and the Druids. And those were the remaining overlords and pretend gods. The Picts overthrew their god, their fake gods, and reconnected to the natural goddess energy, separate of the way the Druids and the Celts did. But ultimately, there was a bastardization of this because they essentially became feral practitioners in their aggressive defense. But at the same time, they always knew if it was going to rain or snow. They had a unique natural world sense that was far more attuned than anyone else in their entire environments. Okay.
And was that why there was, because the story of them painted and like the most best warriors possibly, and some of the tactics they had as warriors, so that was a period of time where they were basically kicking out the Celtic, and they had to do that in order to.
Well, they'd already kicked out the Celts from before
Okay.
that, and then they made treaties and agreements, and then other foreign invaders came in, and then as the different kings and queens of local environments changed and rules and treaties changed, they had to become more aggressive, and at a much younger age teach people war tactics, so they were far more familiar with how to make formations, how to stay in formations, how to track, how to hunt, how to feed a military when you don't have a wagon train, so on and so forth. All of those things that were innate into everyone there versus the knowledge held by a small few.
Yeah.
And did they interbreed with the local population? And
Yes.
if so, how many now have Pict DNA?
Well, they had no choice but to interbreed. They died off too fast.
Yeah.
And is the Pict pure lineage? How many pure Native American lineages are there now? A handful? 50, 75, 100? I mean, maybe it's more than that, but the same thing applies to the Picts. There are some full-blooded Picts out there. Do they even know it? Some do, some don't.
And what about those? There'll be some that have some of their DNA, though, through the interbreeding.
Sure, and if you do like the 23andMe, where they do the DNA measuring of what's in you, a Pict DNA will not show up as British. It'll show up as German.
It's German?
Yeah, it's German.
Wow.
And what was their skin suit like, Andrew, the Picts? So when they were incarnating into the skin suits, was it just the regular human form, or was it?
They were always a regular human form,
yes,
except they were taller. They weren't giants, but remember, the average human height in the 1600s was like 4'9", 4'10", and now we're averaging 5'10". So if you had a 5'2" Pict in a 4'8" world, that was pretty tall, because that also came with 40 pounds of more muscle.
Wow.
Versus a 9-foot giant.
And for them being taken out, was it the Roman Empire who had to come and take them out? And when they got taken off this world, were they physically taken off by them, or how was it done? Were they assassinated? How did they kind of capture them in a way to take them off world?
Say the question again.
So from listening to before, when you talked about the Picts saying that they were captured and taken to a different part, a different galaxy or somewhere, how were they taken off this world? Were they assassinated from the Roman Empire? Because lately there's been like loads of things found in Pict site, like Roman belts and stuff like that. Was the Romans were the people to assassinate them in a way?
Yes, but at the same time, there was a religious organization within the Picts magical groups that had treaties with other magical groups who had relations with off-world beings. Yeah. And many of them knew the assassins were coming and they needed to leave. So some volunteered, some were taken forcefully, and all of that. But the entire population wasn't just taken. It was enough to reseed it somewhere else and to restart the teachings of that lineage in a specific way.
Yeah. Okay. Have you got anything to add to that, Laura, at all with the Picts?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay. So moving on as well, I wanted to ask about the base chakra in the spine of Scotland, Andrew, and that Pacific area. Whereabouts would that be? Because I wanted to eventually take a pilgrimage to that area. Would that be just up the spine of Scotland and moving, like you said, with the womb chakra, or?
Yes. And
Yes.
be moving with the different spine and the womb chakra energies, yes.
Yes. Wow. And so moving forward as well for Edinburgh itself, would that just be a sacred geometry city and a lot of trying to the system building on there? Is there a reason why? Yes.
It was built on a place of power that was already a place of power and already a place of power before that.
Wow.
Is that the old volcanic rock that it's built on?
Yes.
Yeah. So does volcanic rock have any other special features?
Yeah, it has at the time that it becomes liquid magma to solid magma, it has the magnetic signature frequency of that era which it's created.
Oh, that's metamorphic rock.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
which allows you to naturally have conscious time travel.
Okay.
And so, going on, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I was just going to say that will be the general frequency of Scotland then.
Correct.
Allowing you to have conscious time travel, because the Picts were they time travelers or just like consciousness explorers?
No, they were invaders. They would go and invade other realities.
Okay, but that doesn't make them time travelers necessarily.
No, they had control over time. They would go 200 years into the past and invade the past of someplace else and then come back and then go and attack them 200 years later.
Right, so of the UK, what we're saying really is Scotland is fairly unique of all the UK of having this higher frequency that's built into the bedrock of the actual country.
The entire British Isles is that way.
Okay.
So London is built on an even more powerful energy than all of Scotland. That's why the city of London is where it's at.
Okay.
And why is so much of the Catholic Church invested into Ireland? Because they want to harvest that energy.
Yeah.
And so for the Isle of Skye, very special place, and so looking at that and the land there, what's the specific technology of the Isle of Skye, Andrew?
There's history there, and it's where the magicians went to procreate new magicians and test and practice. And back in the ancient days, let's say 7-8 million years ago, it was the Disneyland of Atlantis. Okay?
And for you,
what
Laura,
do wizards do at a theme park? Think about it. They do wizard shit.
Yeah.
Cast some spells.
Imagine what a wizard's roller coaster is like.
Yeah.
And the Isle of Lewis as well. What's specific about the Isle of Lewis, and it's got that. What's the stone circle called there, Laura? Was it
before it was an island? It was on top of a mountain.
Yes.
Okay.
In which people pilgrimage to get to the top of the mountain, to feel that energy at the top of the mountain.
Okay. Which would be at the highest point in Lewis. Okay. I don't know whether that's canonish or not. There's more than one stone circle there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so these stone circles, are they part of a leftover Atlantean technology?
No, but the wisdom was instilled into them that has aspects of Atlantean technology. Stonehenge is actually Atlantean technology and off-world technology combined to be a marker stone throughout history that would trigger people into greater awareness, as well as it had other purposes and magical things behind it that was about sowing crops and feeding animals and animal husbandry to keep a high population highly agrarian and highly supplied with food, so that the DNA lineage skin suits can grow faster within each generation, instead of being common hunter-gatherers who didn't have the regular food and resources. So creating an agrarian society that was based around that, keeping the wisdom of the agrarian society that allowed them to have powerful weather prediction capacities too, so know when they needed to go underground to avoid the storms and the floods, etc.
So yeah, so stones are the record keepers and the wisdom keepers from that point of view. So did all the stone circles we're talking about, maybe not just in Scotland, but maybe, I mean, in the northern...
They were all interconnected.
Right, like we were saying, like
a computer circuit, like a computer circuit board on the surface of the world.
Yeah. So are any of them still held by any of the dark rituals? I mean, I know like yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So there's still work to be done. What sort of percentage are we looking at?
15% held by the negative.
Okay. And does any, I'm not saying individual work, but, you know, if a group of practitioners were to go
I wouldn't do it.
No.
Would you go to D-Day, the beaches at Normandy, and try to clear it?
No, I wouldn't.
As a single practitioner?
No.
Okay. Would you walk into the Vatican and try to clear the Vatican as a single practitioner?
I wouldn't even do it as part of a group.
You'd need an army of 300,000 to 400,000 highly experienced clearing practitioners to even touch one chamber in the Vatican.
Sure.
Okay.
Are the stone circles as powerful as the Vatican energy still?
No, because the Vatican has been stealing energy from all of those circles for centuries.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So what you're saying, Andrew, is I know a lot of people like to go to stone circles. Me, myself, I did in Scotland, and it did like a ritual on the land and started working with the land itself. So you're saying that it's all right to go there, but trying to fully clear out these parts and areas, you need a hell of a lot of people, and you need to know what the fuck you're doing. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
If you're going to go there to learn about the ancestors and do ancestral offerings and balancings, that's different than clearing.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yes.
You know, Laura, I remember telling you years ago, why do you need to clear everything you go to?
Okay. I was doing ceremony in churchyards before.
Right.
Before you put me right. Yeah. But I mean, a grandmother's soup energy.
It's an offering to all the ancestors of the land.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And
so it doesn't actually have to do it in a stone circle either. I mean, the other thing is like, it's like trying to do it in Roslin Chapel, isn't it? I went to Roslin Chapel and said to you, what do I need to do? And you said, just let your unseen world do what it needs to do. And
be
just
a tourist. Yeah, just be a tourist.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know a group did go and clear Menentol after Alistair.
I know 1,000 groups have all said the exact same thing.
Really? Okay.
When is it going to be clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a story of this. So there was a lady on my workshop, I'd say, I think it was about 6 months ago, and she gave us a story, and she went into a place in Scotland, and it was like a dungeon, and she went in there and she tried to clear it on her own, and she basically hasn't had any understanding of how to protect and stuff like that. So she went in there, light worker salad, and tried to clear out the niches there, and she was mentally ill and emotionally exhausted for about a month after. She was being attacked left, right, and center. And that for me was a huge lesson. It's like, you don't go in there as a light worker and let your ego and zealot side try and do something which is not really important, to be honest.
Exactly.
No, been there, done that. Yeah, paid the price, but I'm okay now.
And I remember saying that and asking you the question, because I went to Merlin's Cave as a light worker the first time. And I was there like, right, I went with this guy called Stephen. We're on top doing a ritual, and he was there trying to, clear the land, putting stuff into the land. Then I asked Andrew about it in one of my private sessions, and next time he just said, just fucking go there and experience the land for what it is. That's it. And I went there second time, and my second time in there was so different and beautiful and unique, because I was actually just experiencing, using my senses and trying to fucking be this light worker, and I want to heal at fucking everything.
Oh, you know what that is, Dale? That's the warrior soul shard.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
That's the one leading you out there.
Yes,
I know that.
And we're all almost coming towards, we did want to talk about the soul shard, Laura. Didn't we want to quickly go into these different soul shard aspects? What are you like?
How does Andrew feel, or do you want to save that for another show?
Andrew, do you want to save it for another?
Yeah, because then we can make it all about that, and we can go full into those teachings.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
And I feel that you saying that, Andrew, is such a big, and I know so many people listening to this, and it kind of put me at ease when I just knew I could be a tourist again. And I could just go. I didn't have this fucking mission of like, I've got to go do Scotland stone circles and go around and clear them out. Like,
how do you teach that lesson? Because I had faced that conundrum early in my awareness of all these people coming from a state of wanting to do good, but not realizing the ego behind. You think you can change an environment that has 900 years of prayer and worship behind it, or thousands of years of history behind it. I can't tell you how many people call me up. I've cleared the world. Okay, you and 25,000 other light workers that are 67 years old and got a bug up their ass for clearing everything. The people that do missions, the mission people, I have such a tough time with them because only a handful of them actually do anything real.
Yeah. So that's great, Andrew. And I'm looking at my memories of Scotland when I went to the stone circles and went to the top of the loch, bottom of the loch, all light worker, and
all light worker mode, exactly.
Gratification.
The more I do this journey, the more I realize that actually being spiritual is just really enjoying your 3D life to the absolute full, and have a passion, and all the stuff we've learnt from Andrew gets integrated, but it's not a zealot thing anymore, as I have to go there and do ceremony, I have to do ceremony there. Yeah, I carry my medicine bag with me in the van, things like that. I carry my drum and so on, but you know, I get a lot of pleasure from that. And as Andrew's saying, a lot of that is about connecting with the ancestors of the land. Being an ancestral medium, for me, is more important now than clearing land. But when I first started out, like you, Dale, I was thinking, how on earth, like you were saying, can I get to all these standing stones? How can I do ritual? Oh, there's so much to do, you know. And then after a while, you realise that you don't have to do that, and maybe just the joy of being actually overrides so much of it that you're actually trying to clear, but you're actually trying to make hard work for yourself in doing it that way. And you can just choose. It's almost an easier route, but it's finding the passion in your day-to-day life, isn't it? It's finding the joy of living and making your life a living prayer. And for me, that can override so much more than some very serious light worker stuff does. But I think that's come through trial and error, hasn't it, Andrew, with me?
Yep.
You know, I've been shot back a few times and caused myself some harm, and then Andrew's had to come and rescue me. So I've learned the hard way too.
Beautiful. And what a great way to end the show. And thank you again, Andrew and Laura, for co-hosting. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for this special show. It's an honor, Andrew, as always, brother.
Always the honor beyond. I look forward to coming on again and talking about the soul shard journeys.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. That would be a good one. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Nice talking to you again.
And thank you,
maybe
everyone.
We could do a Halloween show. Maybe we could do a Halloween show.
Yes.
Hey, yes.
I'm going to dress up. I'm going to dress up.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll have loads of stuff. The kids have got so much Halloween shit. So I'll
Halloween special.
Yeah, we'll do a Halloween special.
Yes, brilliant.
Beautiful.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this week's show, and we'll be back next week. I hope. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave.